Hi, my name is SRIDHAR RANGAYAN. I'm the Festival Director of Kashish Mumbai International Queer Film Festival, which is having its 12th edition right now. And today we are in conversation with the cast and crew of the film Unsound, which has been the closing film of the festival. And we have with us Ian Watson, the director of the film, and Reece, the lead actor, and Yana, who is the lead actress of the film. You can call her actress or actor because she plays a trans in the film. Thank you for joining all in this particular conversation. It's been such a beautiful film, and we are really happy to be closing the festival with such an important film, which talks about the communities, not just one community, because it talks about the deaf community and also about the trans community. It's such an important film, and I'm sure that it's gone a long way, and I've seen that it's won many awards. What drew you to this particular film? You've been a very established director of many television shows, and this is your directorial debut. So what made you choose this particular film as your directorial debut?
Well, thank you firstly for having the film in your festival. We're so proud of it. It's lovely to see the life of the film continues. It's been 2.5 years now since we've made the film, and it's had this fabulous life. For me, I came onto the film late. I knew Suzanne, the producer. We were at film school together, and I knew she was doing this film. And through various ways and means, she lost her director, so she asked me whether I'd do it, and I read the script. And what attracted me about the script was the fact that it was about a community. It was about the trans community and the deaf community, and it was set within a community in where we chose to put it in Manly. And I had a background in theatre for a long time before television, and I started originally in community theatre. So for me, this film was really about a community, and we approached it as if we were a community too. We had trans consultants, we had deaf consultants working with us through the process. So for me, it's interesting you use the word community. To me, it was an opportunity to make a film about a community by a community. And it took me back to that place, and that's why I think it sits well now, is because we can see within the film itself the life of the people that have made it and the purposes for making it.
And basically, after you came on board, did you happen to develop the script further, or the script was already in place and you basically navigated the other structures of casting and music? Music plays such an important part in the film.
The script was in place. Essentially, I had one meeting with the writer, Ali Burnham, who'd already written this beautiful script, and it had been through many changes. And so I came into the process there. And so it was mainly about rehearsing, working with the cast, working the locations, the music. So it was more of that end of the film and because of my background in television, I'd done this process many times. We shot the film, of course, quickly, but we had an extensive rehearsal process where we could bring the actors in and work the material. And we had, as I said before, we had consultants working with us. So it was my main area of working within it was for the images, the film, the shooting, the locations, and the music.
And the writer has mentioned somewhere that he was asked to change the script because they said you cannot have both the elements in the same film, the deaf community and the trans community. Can you change the script? So what has been your reaction to, have you received any feedback like that? So you could have just made it about just the deaf community or the trans community. It's too complicated to navigate both the words.
I think that's the beauty of the film, that it is about communities and represents different communities. And I hadn't heard that criticism before, observation, I should say, about the film. I think it's its strengths, that it so beautifully takes community and this idea of belonging in our search for identity and places it into two distinct, what we think of as separate communities, but they're in fact one. In a lot of ways, community is seen as a separate thing. There's the queer community, there's the hearing community, there's the deaf community, there's this community. But in fact, they are all part of a greater community, which is life, really, isn't it?
Right, which is humanity, right?
Okay. Indeed, absolutely.
So, Reece, coming to you, basically, what attracted you to this particular project? And you're based in Los Angeles, but the film is shot in Australia. Were you based in Australia then? And what was your story on this?
So, funnily enough, you just sort of set this answer up for me. There was a number of reasons that I was drawn to this script, but the main one being the intersectionality, which is, the convergence of multiple communities, which I read it initially, and I'll be honest, Ian, had read somewhere or saw that observation, you know, someone had made about the film and to Ali. And when I first read the script, I initially was like, wow, there's a lot going on. And I realized that actually it was just because I'd never read anything that did that before. You know, TV and film has told us that we can only focus on one thing, one element of somebody's personality is the only thing we unpack in a film. And the reality is life isn't like that, is it? You know, we all deal with multiple like parts of ourselves and, you know, mix amongst different communities and also fit into many different communities. So that was like a draw for me because I realized that I'd never read anything quite like it. And that excited me. And it was a love story, I think, for me, who has a lot of trans friends, and I've spoken to them at length about representation. None of them could tell me about a film that they'd seen or a TV show that allowed them to have any kind of happy ending or any kind of authentic love without some kind of barrier or some kind of battle. So I think that was the other thing. I just thought it was a really, really beautiful love story about two people meeting and figuring a few things out together, and then also realizing that actually that's all that it was, and that was okay because it was great anyway. So that was what drew me to. That was not like the draw. And no, I was based in Los Angeles when I got the film. Funnily enough, I moved to Los Angeles because I was like, I want to start working there. And the first job I booked, I'm British, I'm from the UK. The first job I booked when I got to Los Angeles was this Australian film. So yeah, that was just I was based here, and yeah, I had a meeting and over Zoom, over Skype it was pre-Zoom. And that it went from there.
Yeah, and I mean, the film is not just about the romance between you and Finn, but also it's about you and your mother. The story is so importantly placed with the mother's story, and the mother says like she doesn't want anybody else to give you advice when your mom comes to your house and she's giving you advice, and you say that like, she's my advisor. So mother says that like you can have all the advice from me, you know. So that's a good scene. And like, so what is your relationship? And the person who plays the mother is a very, very well-known actress, you know, in Australia. So how was that particular situation, and how is your equation with the actress and with your mother in the film?
How was my relationship with Paula is what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, mother's, how did, I mean, like, it was like the mother's character is so beautifully etched into the film, you know, it is an integral part of the film, you know. So what do you think of that particular aspect of the film, apart from your love story?
I thought that was also like another dimension to the script, you know, in the same way that Finn's character deals with issues with his father. We're all sort of navigating dynamics amongst all, you know, everything is sort of, a conversation, and life is an ongoing conversation with all of the people within it, right? You know, we're always renegotiating boundaries and figuring out who we are, particularly as young people, and particularly in the current, you know, climate where so much is going on. And I love that dynamic. I also loved it because I just think it helped you, the viewer, see a vulnerability to Noah, and also helped to understand how he'd gotten to where he'd gotten, and his own conflict and what it stemmed from, and also the fact that, you know, his mother was still trying to heal from something, which lightly brushes on, you know, generational trauma. And yeah, I thought that was a really vital aspect as well.
All right, I'm going to come back to you with more questions. Yeah, okay. Thank you for joining in today. You're beautiful in the film and in real life. And thank you really for making this particular film and joining it. So how challenging was it to play a part which is in real life a bit of yourself? You know, of course, it's different because you're playing a trans man, but how challenging was it to do the film in the first place?
I think for me, it was I knew I was taking on a huge responsibility because I am hearing impaired, but I never was associated with the deaf community. I was someone who was born in the healing world. So I and as well as, you know, being gay as well, I wasn't really associated with the gay community either until now. So I had a lot of learning to do. And for me, it wasn't just a challenge as an artist, but it was a challenge as well as learning about both communities. And it was really beautiful to learn more about the deaf community, and especially to learn how to sign and use Auslan as well.
So you didn't know Auslan before? You didn't
No,
know
I've never
Auslan
signed before. Yeah, I learned for the film, so that's what was really beautiful. Was I had to be as fluent as possible, and as an actor, it's really challenging to express yourself physically rather than verbally, and it was really crucial for me to get the story and the scene done correctly emotionally, as well as communicate with the other actor. And playing a trans man as well, I also had to speak to a lot of people in the community as well to make sure that, you know, I wanted to really embody it authentically as possible to be able to tell this story as truthfully as possible.
And did you actually have to cut your hair for the film?
Yes, I did. But thankfully with lockdown, you know, I've had the time to grow it out, and yeah.
And for me, it was beautiful when the character says, I don't need you to fight the battles. I can fight my own battles. No, the film says to somebody. So I just want to know, how close is a character to your real life? I mean, are you as determined about that I can fight my own battles? I don't want anybody else to come near me. Is that the way you are in real life, or how does it work for you?
I would say I am a little bit of a fighter. I mean, I think on the exterior I look very soft, and but deep down, I think a lot of us who've had to fight for who we are, I think we've deep down got our own, you know, battles that we battle, I guess. But yeah.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you again. I'm going to go back to Ian. Ian, like basically, I mean, the music plays such an important part in the film, you know. So how is the songs visualized, and also it's been shot so beautifully, the songs. So what would be your take on the music per se?
The first thing we had to appreciate was that the deaf club where a lot of the film is set, they listen to music or they feel music, as Finn. Noah says, "What, can I hear it?" And Finn says, "No, you feel it." So we had to have a particular type of music that would work for there. And also then through the story, Noah's composing music for the club as well. That's the central idea. So we had to do a lot of research and thinking about and listening to this type of music, which would have the resonance we need, because you can actually feel it through the floor. So we began with there, and then we had music on the day when we were shooting a lot of that stuff that we could use, and then it was a way to be able to just find that delicate level of it. And then once we got into the mix, it became about we worked with the composer to have the right ingredients and the elements in the film, and then once we started to get into the theatres, we could we had to start to match the cinema speakers to be able to take the deeper notes that we wanted to have in our mix. So you could literally, I mean, it's where you could sit in the cinema and you could feel the music coming through the chair, the comfortable chairs that we were sitting in. So it has that effect. So it quite a lot of thought went into it just for authenticity.
In fact, like, I mean, for me, I wish we would have been screening it in the theater instead of virtual. We screen at this beautiful Liberty Cinema, which is 1,200 seats. The opening and the closing, it fills up the entire theater. I could imagine 1,200 people getting up and dancing to the last song, you know.
It's wonderful.
So empowering, you know. It's so beautiful. I feel goose flesh even just thinking about the last song, you know?
Yeah, it is wonderful to see it. And I haven't seen it a lot in the cinema because most of the playing of it here has been online as well because of COVID. But I did see it in Sydney where it's at its premiere for the Queer Festival here, and it was fantastic. It's a beautiful experience. It was a 500-seat theatre that was full, and it really is, because again, about community. We had members of those community there. You did feel like jumping up and dancing.
Yeah. I think you have just basically have you been able to release the film in theaters or basically at film festivals only?
It released in Australia. It released in cinemas, but at the same time it was released in Melbourne first, and it played a week, did quite well, and then lockdown came, and so that stopped. And then it was released in Sydney, and lockdown came, so it's been stopped each time. It was released firstly end of last year, so around I think it was February this year. So it's been out, but it's mainly been in festival circuits and online at the moment. So it's just disappointing, but at least it's in your festival, it still has a life. It's wonderful that it's being seen now because it's always out there. So we're thrilled.
So which was the most difficult scene for you to conceptualize and shoot? If you want to pick one particular scene, which basically you thought it was easy on paper, but finally very difficult to produce and shoot.
For me, it was the scene where Noah and Finn argue and fight and separate and go their separate ways. It's the turning point in the film where Noah kind of accepts that he can't be the person that Finn wants him to be, and Finn sees that Finn has to move forward. And we shot it, and then we reshot it. We shot it, and then I saw the rushes, and I thought it didn't answer the question that was asked in the scene as what would drive these two people apart when they're so compelled to come together. And we reshot it. So that was more of not so much to conceptualize, but just as the director to take responsibility for performance. And given that both actors are so authentic and they connect so well and so beautifully, which they were, I felt it was my fault, as if that scene couldn't be the very best it would be. The rest, I had a beautiful, Kent Marcus shot it, he did a beautiful job, and I had a beautiful crew around me. But ultimately, I take responsibility for that degree of performance, that it's there. And I felt as if I'd let the team down in that scene because I hadn't found the truth of it. So we reshot it, and now I think it sits quite well in the film and provides the function that it has to.
No, I think thank you for admitting that particular thing. But you have extracted beautiful performances from both the actors. It's so real. That's also most of the reviewers are also saying the performance is so real, and the whole setting is so beautifully real. So thank you for making that particular thing. Coming back to you, Reece, which was the most difficult scene for you to shoot? Was it the time when you had to get naked and go to the cold water? Is that the most difficult, or some other scene which you thought was more difficult?
No, I would say it's probably not what you would expect, but the scene that I was most nervous for and anticipating the most was I think it was the opening scene, which is where I'm in the pub with Moniqua. And it's only because I learned guitar for the film.
Oh.
And I knew that this was Noah's big solo where he's I'm a maverick and I'm doing this for me. And so I knew how important the guitar piece was going to be. And I think I was so nervous about just really selling that. So I would say that was my most anticipated scene. The nude I was fine with, just as long as I was as long as I was there's not other people on the beach. That's the only, which of course it was 10 p.m. when we shot it, so there wasn't any people on the beach. But yeah, I would say the opening scene was probably what I was most nervous for.
And so now you can play guitar and you can be a lead in some band or something now? Are you professional now?
Absolutely not. I've forgotten everything I learned. And this is what happens. You learn these skills for these jobs, and then you're this is it. I'm going to continue. Wow, I did it. Skill. This is me now. And then 5 months later, you're do you remember that time when I learned how to play guitar?
That's beautiful to know that. So which is your most difficult scene for you in the film? I found this particular scene which was really sad for me was when you're not able to take off your clothes in the same scene which I just talked about, to go into the water. And the whole moment where you say that I'm not the same under here, that's what you say in the dialogue. And I felt so challenged because I just felt how complicated is a trans man's life. We all think it's cool and okay and everything, but deep down it's so complicated to be a trans man who cannot be the same from outside and inside. So was that your most complicated scene, or you want to pick some other scene which you felt was very complicated for you to enact?
I think that particular scene, from what I've realized after I've done the film, was the most captivating to trans people. I've had a lot of people approach me about that particular scene. So it's really beautiful to know that, because, you know, while you do it as an artist, you're thinking, you're not really thinking about, so for example, like for me personally, the most difficult scene as an artist was the plate scene between my dads. And I think that was difficult because I had to really, like I said before, I had to really show emotionally how I was feeling only physically, whereas me, I expressed myself verbally. So I think that was the most challenging scene for me. But it's beautiful to know that beach scene had a huge impact on a lot of trans people, because, yeah, it's one of those things where you don't realise the impact you've made on other particular scenes when you feel like, yeah, your mind was elsewhere, if that makes sense.
And how important do you think is like representation, like a hearing impaired person playing a hearing impaired person, or a queer person playing a queer person? How important it is? And also, like, I mean, do you finally, after this film, by any chance, get more roles to play only hearing impaired person? Because you're an actress, you don't want to continue to play a hearing impaired person in every film of yours, you know? So what do you think of that particular aspect?
I'm someone who kind of takes on any opportunity that I get. I try not to get too picky about it. I think, especially in today's world as an actor, it's a lot harder, I think, because a lot more, I could be wrong, but there's a lot more people out there that want to be actors now. And I think there's no room for me to kind of even think about it anymore. It's just, yeah, whatever gets thrown at me, I kind of do it. And if it boxes me, it boxes me, but I can always, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I appreciate every opportunity I get, and getting this film was like winning the lottery to me. So
thank you for that. And Reece, what do you think of, like, I mean, do you basically, you play a gay man who is in love with a trans person? Do you basically fear being boxed and basically slotted as a person who can play queer roles only, or something like that?
I think it's definitely something I considered 10 years ago, and the industry has changed a lot, and it's changing rapidly, and as is, you know, society and the world and people's perceptions of identity. I have always played a huge variety of roles, and that's what has kept me going. I'm very selective. I don't always work because I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. So far, I mean, I don't feel like I'm stuck playing a queer or any particular role. But I also think it's cyclical. For me, having done this for so long, I feel like I have like a 3-year period where everybody wants me to play the same this one thing. And then somehow you just sort of get shifted out of that, or like, you know, meander into something else. Variety, like Yana, variety for me is really important. So I try to play a plethora of different roles.
Beautiful. And I hope you continue to get more challenging roles and bigger roles. Jan, the last question to you. What is the message you think the audience should take back from the film? I know that it's entertainment. The film is entertaining. It's beautiful. But do you also want the audience to take back a message?
I think it's simple. I think the story is a love story, and I think that love is love. Ultimately, I don't think it's about boxing people in any particular ways or seeing things as separate communities. I think the world is so separate at the moment that the simple message is that love is love, and it is where it is, and we just have to embrace the simplicity of that. So for me, that's ultimately what I think the film is about.
Thank you. I mean, definitely love is love, and that's what Kashish also stands for. So this year we showed 221 films from 53 countries. We opened with this beautiful young youth film from Germany, No Hard Feelings, and we are closing with this wonderfully youthful film, Unsound. So we bookmark with youth, but in between we have so many different films. So thank you all for joining in this conversation, and we really hope that we are able to navigate mind spaces of people with some change through the films they watch at the festival. And I'm sure Unsound will go a long way in changing mindsets about the deaf community and the trans community. So thank you for making this film, and thank you for joining the Q&A.
Thank you, Kashish.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.